Hello everyone, this is Zwift number 74, stage 1, rolling with ENVE again, Two Bridges loop. We're in the category 210 to 330 because my ZRS has dropped down to 327. So we've got 3 laps around the Two Bridges loop. I think there were 36 signed up. Here's a look at the route. Doing the Two Bridges loop, beginning in downtown Wartopia. There's a little bit towards the volcano, and we are linking the route between the hilly KOM and forwards and the hilly KOM in reverse. So here we are in downtown Wartopia. We've had 30 people in this race, although 36 signed up. It's 3 laps, 21.5 kilometre race with 242 metres of incline, and I think around about 23 or 24 riders are in this front group as we ascend out of downtown Wartopia. So settle in, looking forward to a race in a lower category, so not as challenging hopefully. So yeah, we're just settling into the race. You can see that there's about a dozen riders out in front of me, and I've been able to catch hold of that group there. But there's a few riders around us, but just keeping an eye on the mini map. There does appear to be a slight split just behind me, so I'm hoping that we can get away from the riders who are just behind us. I'm in 13th place here, and you can see that there's a 2-second gap back to Daniela Zimmerman amongst others, but they are close behind us. You can see that the gap has actually decreased. Doug Parazu is one of the riders who's pulled it back, but just keeping a really close eye on it, and I am pushing in a positive way to make sure that we can stay ahead. Again, a gap appears, a few riders back to Zimmerman and Finatello again. But let's see how this progresses. So being proactive, staying up on the front at the end of that slight incline. You can still see on the mini map there's a gap back to about 6 or 7 riders. So can these riders form a breakaway of around about 15 riders? You can see now that the gap has opened up, and let's work out how many riders there are as we go through that banner. I didn't choose to get rid of my feather along the flats because I wanted to keep the feather for the main uphill up by one of the bridges at the far end of the loop. So I'm in 14th position. There's 2 or 3 riders behind me. There's about 15 or 16 riders here going across the cobbled area. Some people pop their steamroller power up because that's where you can benefit from using it, because it makes the surface a lot smoother, so therefore you can speed up a little bit if you've popped your steamroller. So heading out of the village on a slight incline here, just preparing ourselves before we get to the main incline in a couple of kilometers, which we'll have to do 3 times. So a relatively slightly downhill section here, and then a flat section before we head up to the bridge where you can see the 2 bikes in the distance. That's going to be the main area where we're going to see breakaways or the group split. So let's see how that goes. It is only 10 seconds back to the riders behind us. Again, that's Daniela Zimmerman's at the front of that group chasing us, but let's just see how things progress in front of us. I'm in my lowest gear here, but I do choose, as we start to climb up this hill, to change gear into a slightly higher gear, increase the cadence so that I can hopefully stay with these riders. But enjoying the fact that I'm riding with other riders in a lower ZRS score. We're in the category below 330, so pleased that I can just stay with the rest of these riders. You'll see that I'll pop the feather here just to get me up over this right hand turn. The mini-map in the centre of the page in front of us is slightly deceptive because we turn left in this first blue section, so we're not going to head up again over that second orange and yellow section. So that's as much as we needed to do there. Heart rate's at 168, so like I always say, just trying to keep it below 170. It's slightly on the flat here before we do a left-hand turn and drop down the hill. But just being conscious that I want to stay with the rest of the riders. I think there's 4 riders out in front before, and then another 2 just in front of me. There might be 5 and then 2 because I'm in 8th position. And I'm slightly distanced at this point, but I take advantage of easing off slightly, allowing B Turner and Lendon to go past, and just allow myself to use their draft. Parazu, you can see, Doug Parazu, you can see is just 2 seconds behind me, so have I distanced myself from him? So just putting in a little burst here as we come towards the start-finish line, just so I can catch hold of the 7 riders ahead. B Turner comes through, and there's about 10 of us here. Parazu's 2 seconds back, so he may well have been distanced. So it looks like we formed a group of 10 riders with 2 laps to go. So we've reached the top of that slight ascent out of downtown Watopia. I'm in 10th position. Doug Parazu is just behind me, a second behind, but then the gap back 12 places to Horsey. And so just making sure that I can try and stay with the riders in front so that I can stay with this main group. But I am slightly struggling. My heart rate is up in the 160s. I would have preferred it to have dropped back down to the 150s by now. So I'm working quite hard to try and just keep hold of the rest of this group. I'm hoping that Doug Parazu will allow me that slight gap between myself and the front group. But hoping now that, as you can see, I'm just getting a little bit closer. I put a little bit of a burst in here up the hill, increased my watts, and I'm sat back in with them now. So top 12 with just over a lap and a half in the race to go, 12 kilometres. But as quickly as I felt as though I'd caught hold of the group, although I had to work hard, I peaked. You can see my heart rate's up over 160, and I had nothing left in the tank to catch back hold of the people in front. John Hoskins just bombed straight past me here. There was a chance that I could have caught hold of his back wheel and maybe he could have pulled me up to the riders in front, but I was pretty much spent by this point. I was easing off. You can see my heart rate is up in the mid 150s, but I'm hoping that it'll drop a bit. Average watts of 237. That's higher than it has been over the last few races. So maybe I, took too much out of me too early on, and I just needed to recover a bit. So you can see that the front group now of 10 or 11 riders, they've gone. They're 14 seconds ahead, most of them. John Hoskin, he's just a couple of seconds, so I'm hoping that I can catch hold of his back wheel and just keep myself ahead of the riders behind. There's about 4 or 5 of them, 16, 17 seconds back. So here we go, I'm back on his back wheel, able to draft off him with absolutely no intention that we will catch the riders in front, but just looking for a little bit of an easier ride for the second half of the race. So I'm looking at the gap now between myself and Daniela Zimmerman and Ollie Spetz, and it's 14 seconds. So I'm looking at 9 kilometers back to the end of the race. Sorry, they're 14 seconds. If I can keep that gap around 14 seconds for as long as possible, hopefully I can keep them, away from me. So hopefully not lose any more positions, and then just keep to an 11th place finish. Just drafting off Jay Hoskins' back wheel. It's 23 seconds to the group in front, where you can see Yumo Wee 23 seconds ahead of us at the back of the group in head. But John Hoskins pushes away. You can see now that Daniela Zimmerman and Spetz, they've pulled right up, and they're 4 or 5 seconds behind us now. So keeping them at bay just doesn't seem to be what's going to materialise. I was able to power up over the top of the hill and just keep working hard, so I wasn't falling away too drastically. But you can see the gap now is down to 3 or 4 seconds, and we've still got over a lap to go. And then as quickly as they come up to me and Hoskin, they just bomb straight past us. So now we're in a situation where we're trying to catch hold of their tail so that we can form a larger group. You can see that Horsey just in front of me, he's the one who's slightly distanced as well, but I am able to get hold of the back wheel of the 5 riders in front, so hopefully that's a positive thing, and hopefully I can stay with these riders who you would perceive have been struggling in the earlier part of the race because they were behind us. I've had to ease off, so I'm hoping now that I can stay with these riders all the way through to the end with exactly 1 lap to go at this point as we go back through downtown Watopia with 1 lap to go. So 6 kilometres, we've just reached the top of that small ascent coming out of downtown Watopia. You can see Daniela Zinnerman is pushing the pace along. I've also got John Hoskin in the orange just in front. Horsey's just also gone past, as has Ollie Spetz. And the final person in the group is Renato Finatello. So the 6 of us are just riding along here now. But I'm hoping to use the draft and take advantage of being able to ease off, but the pace is quite strong. You can see that Zimmerman has opened up a 3-second gap ahead of us, and the 4 riders who are round by me are not really putting too much effort to try and catch. So let's see how this progresses. Zimmerman is hopefully trying to catch Yumu Wee, who's dropped off the front group. He was up with the rest of the riders, but he's eased off and he's dropped well away quite quickly with the front group 50 seconds ahead. You can see that Doug Parazu, he's been dropped also, so there must only be about 8 riders in the front group. With like I said, Doug Parazu, he's eased off by 10 seconds, and Yumui, he's only 18 seconds ahead of us, so keeping an eye on that. But you can also see with the pace that Daniela Zimmerman has produced, that the likes of Ole Spetz and Horsey, they've all gone straight after them, but I've not been able to do that. So now I'm looking at the gap between myself and Toby Wagner, the person who's right behind me, and hoping that I can keep them away and keep them at distance, so I can hopefully finish at 17th position. But here we go, Zip moving forward. Here's the front rider, Carlos Ramirez. He's got around about 5 kilometers to go at this point. I'm just checking to see how it's all going. Carlos Ramirez 4 seconds out in front, followed by Kiju. It says K on the screen, but his full name on the app was Kiju. And then we've got Bron Turner. He's also up there in this chasing group, trying to catch Carlos Ramirez in the orange. Here he is. Here's Carlos Ramirez. So we've got just a few kilometers to go. Back to myself in 15th position. You can see that Toby Wagner has now brought that gap down to 12 seconds behind me. So that potentially means that he's going to catch me, and potentially Jay Mullican as well. But I want to try and catch the winners going over the finish line. So we're back with Carlos Ramirez. He's now got an 11-second lead over Kiju, and the rest of the riders, there's 4 or 5 of them altogether, chasing down Carlos Ramirez, but Carlos is going away, so it doesn't look like they are going to be able to catch him. So here's Bron Turner going up over the final ascent before we drop down to downtown Wartopia. B Turner in 4th position. He's got Kiju in front of him, and Philippe Dietrich just ahead of him as well. And Carlos Ramirez has a 22-second lead at this point. Philippe Dietrich has pulled away from the rest of the other riders at this point, so his second place looks confirmed as well, with about 1.5 kilometers to go. So back to Carlos Ramirez. He's pushing away now. The gap to Philippe is 10 seconds, but 22 seconds back to Bron Turner in 3rd position. And I know we're in double speed, but it looks like he's powering on really hard towards the finish line, which is just around the next left-hand turn. So Carlos Ramirez, he's pushing his 5 watts per kilogram coming round to the finish line. Then we'll look back to Philippe Dietrich, who's 10 seconds back. Here he is in the yellow. Then chasing him hard is Bron Turner, but Bron Turner's been passed by Kiju, you can see going ahead. Then we drop back to James McClendon, and then we drop back to Alexander Gironu, making sure that we try and catch as many riders going over the finish line as possible. So next over the line you'll watch Karsten Korsholm. Doug Perajou must be pleased with how he's pulled it back. Before we go back to Ole Spets, who I was riding alongside before. So Ole Spets and Daniela Zimmerman doing really well. Then we've got Yumu Wee, who I mentioned just before. Daniela and Ole Spitz must have gone past them. Then we've got John Hoskin riding close to Renato Finatello. Then we've got Toby Wagner, and Toby Wagner, we were talking about how close behind me he was, but he's been able to go past me convincingly, so I've eased off massively because they were 46 seconds ahead of me in the end. Just going back to a few riders behind me, here's Tom Baladacera. He's just behind me, and there was a question mark whether him and CF, who was riding alongside him, would catch me. I was keeping a close eye whilst I was filming all the other riders, making sure that I could stay ahead of them. And there's myself crossing the line in 17th, and Don Bob Serrera just passing, and CF just passing me after we've gone past the finish line and I've eased off. So I'll just go through all the positions now and talk you through how it felt for me. So here it is, Carlos Ramirez, quite convincing win in 34 minutes and 24 seconds, averaging 3.7 watts. Then we had Philippe Dietrich in 2nd place, 14 seconds behind. Then Kiju in 3rd, 21 seconds behind. Then quite close behind him was Bron Turner, 5th place was James McClendon. 6th place was Alexandre Jouanet. Then 7th place, Karsten Korsholm. Then in 8th place, Doug Parazu. 9th was taken by Ole Spets, and then Daniela Zimmerman in 10th position. And she was 1 minute and 30 behind the leader. But myself, back in 17th place, I actually looked at all the data later on, and I finished this race in 37 minutes and 46 seconds and averaged 2.3 watts, which is nowhere near where I'd expect to be, but it was okay. But I did notice that from this race compared to the same race I did a couple of days ago, I was 2 minutes and 5 seconds faster today, so that's a massive improvement. So really pleased with that. Hope you enjoyed watching. Please subscribe and please like. We're getting very close to 150 subscribers now, which is nice, but not obviously massive in the whole world of gaining YouTube plaques or anything like that. But hope you enjoyed it. I am potentially coming back Tuesday for stage 2. Cheers, bye bye, catch you then.